Hello and welcome to the Dinosaw for week 7. Another 7 curious, interesting things I saw last week. So let's crack on. Apologies for the 3D printer noise if you can hear it. First one is about Nikita Uvarov, who's a 16-year-old Russian teenager, obviously, who's just been sentenced to 5 years in a Siberian prison for plotting to blow up a building in Minecraft. Now there's a little more to it than that, obviously. He and 2 of his friends were putting up posters around their town in support of an activist, put them on the FSB building, which is like the new KGB. They got caught, they got their phones searched, and they found conversations saying, hey, let's blow up the FSB building that we built in Minecraft. And obviously that was, as far as the state was concerned, was training for terrorist activities. So 2 of his friends confessed and got off, whereas Nikita said, no, I'm not a terrorist, I'm not going to fess up to this, and he got 5 years. So basically what that's saying is, do your metaverse actions have real world consequences? And yes, they do, in which case it's 5 years in a Siberian prison. Time-shifted computing is really interesting. So Google have been playing with this a little while in their data centers, and there's a really interesting paper I saw which kind of terms it information battery, which is really interesting. So the concept here is, if you have a data center, you obviously have fluctuating energy costs, and also renewables aren't available all day, i.e. solar isn't available at night. So basically what you can do is you can predict the price of energy and the availability of energy up to 90 minutes ahead. So why don't you look at the data you've got going through and say, is it worth doing right now? And if not, then what you do is you can either pre-compute it when it is worth doing, or you can save it to later and you can schedule it to be done later. So using this way of essentially storing things, data in a battery for use later, so you've already pre-computed it, you know it's going to be needed tomorrow, so just do it now, and then when it needs to be real-time processed, release it to the real-time process, etc, etc. So it turns out that they've calculated you can actually, a data center can actually save 31% on their energy costs, which is amazing. So you know, just this idea of everything should be available right now might actually be something that we're going to cross in the future, because that might not be true. Stress monitoring watch. So this is by UCLA. And this measures cortisol, which is your stress hormone. Why is this a new thing? They've tried to do this before. It's not really been successful, only because the actual way of actually detecting the cortisol has just been too weak. So it's what they call on a sort of millimolar level, and now they can do it on a nanomolar. Which basically means they can actually use a lot less sweat, and actually they can get a lot more out of it. So now, because we all have different stress profiles, shall we say, this isn't kind of a universal scale, but what it will do is it will tell you whether yours is going up or down. So it can basically give you your own index, and therefore tell you whether you may be heading for, you might need medication, or maybe you're just stressed and you need to relax, or you can potentially do meditation, whatever you need to do. However, this sticks to the skin, it's a new thing, and this might be in a watch coming sometime soon. It does use your sweat, by the way, so that's the only icky bit. There you go. This is a really interesting report or press release from Aviva. Now, I had to sort of look into the numbers of this, but basically what it's saying is they have seen a spike in VR-related claims based on the current popularity of the metaverse. So that's not like a claim spike in general, it's just about VR related spikes. So there you go. But what they've seen is a 31% spike in claims for people essentially clubbing their TVs or smacking lights or hurting their home contents in some elaborate way. For instance, knocking sockets off the wall with your head. So apparently the average VR related claim is £650, and that's mainly from broken TVs. So if you sell TVs and VR headsets, then there might be quite an interesting add-on that you can do there, which is insurance for them both. There you go, I thought that was interesting. Yeah, so Apple are the sort of will they, won't they? Of course they will come up with a VR/AR headset, and there are more and more clues out there. So these are 2 tweets from 2 different areas. One is on a relatively unverified but quite useful Git repository, which is where people put code, which actually references RealityOS, so the operating system, and this is in an Apple library. And if you look at the commented out things there, it sort of talks about potentially collaborations with iOS and things like that. So there might be some sort of iOS VR connection. Likewise, potentially talks about simulators as well. So there might be, if you know about Xcode and coding on a Mac, there might be a simulator you might be able to use. And likewise, another tweet on the right-hand side, you can see, which is talking about the App Store. So there might be iOS, or at least what they call RealityOS apps coming there soon. So if you've not heard about the Apple VR headset, it's probably going to be an AR VR mixed thing. There are lots of renders out there. I report on it relatively regularly, but there you go. So more clues coming out. Probably going to launch it this year, but you probably won't be able to get it until next year. That's kind of the vibe at the moment. Facebook, sorry about this. They're in the reports again. So this is a really interesting report about the metrics behind Facebook and actually how they put things on people's feeds. So this report is really going into what they call the MSI, which is how Facebook actually prioritize news on feeds. So if anything has a meaningful social interaction, then there's a code, like basically a like gives you 1, and if somebody does something it gives you 30 points. So basically it adds it all up and it says this seems like a very meaningful social interaction, therefore we shall promote it. Now it turns out there are about 700,000 people in the US which are causing about 45% of all of the stories that go onto people's timelines. So it's about 1% of people are causing 45% of the stories. Now unfortunately, those 1% of people, 30% of those stories are containing misinformation. So you've got a superset of users on Facebook who are actually, because of the metric, are causing quite a lot of harm, I should say. So in the US, this is only a US study, but basically in the US there are 230 million users apparently, which are obviously therefore being sort of misinformed by 700,000 people. So it's really interesting just reading the report about how the MSI interaction actually works and what you can infer from that. So that's quite interesting. And finally, Zoom. If you use Zoom and you are on a Mac, you might want to reinstall, or you might want to install the latest version. So since December last year, people have been noticing that if you're on a newer Mac, there's a little light that comes on. When you've got a light that your camera is on, there's a light that comes on when your microphone is on. Now, after your Zoom meeting, a lot of people are noticing that the camera goes off, but the microphone stays on. So they're thinking, well, what's actually going on there? So lots of, as you see on the right-hand side, lots of people going, yeah, actually it's happening to me too. And that's been constant. Even after the update, some people are still reporting it. So just a quick reminder that Zoom last year were fined $85 million for falsely claiming everything was encrypted end-to-end, and it actually wasn't. So if you do have a Mac and you do use Zoom, you might want to update to the latest version now, but you might also just want to check that light goes off. There you go. Who knows what's going on there? Let's assume it's innocent and everything's fine. Hopefully that was useful. Hopefully that was interesting. And give us a like if you thought it was, and I'll see you next week.